Hi, and welcome back for another installment of Mission to Venus on our way to the end of our story. Clipped to the bulkhead was a row of murderous-looking machetes. You jumped forward, snatched one free, and went slashing in at the Leechen. The imp merely watched, smiling as you fought the battle in which you had no option. Perry and the doctor came in to help. The Leechen sighed and even cried, but oddly your efforts seemed to be making no impression. In fact, on the contrary, it seemed to be multiplying before your eyes. It was. "You're wasting your time," Bergen called. "It'll grow more quickly than you can chop it back." You turned to him in mystification. "That's not possible, is it?" "It is with Leechen," he said. "The more you attack it, the faster it grows. You're only hastening the end." "But we can't stand here helpless," Perry protested. "You have no choice. Eventually it'll cover the entire ship." You looked in puzzlement towards the doctor. He only shrugged, pretty well as puzzled as you were. This was something even he had not encountered before. You had to accept that the commander had no reason to lie about such a thing. That being the case, you were as helpless as Perry had said. The imp giggled and vanished. Where or how, you had no idea. Berrigan stood in silent impotence. The doctor ambled off, and you, for your part, did the best you could for the slashes on Perry's face. Deep they were, and unlikely to stop bleeding for some time. She accepted the handkerchief you gave her and held it pressed to them, her eyes wide with fright. The Leechen continued to reach out for you, its growth visibly faster than it had been initially. In the control room, the imps and dead men had now taken complete charge of the crew. While the dead men gave the orders, the imps plagued the crew, prodding them with their weapons, which had turned out to have power packs and caused considerable pain when brought into contact with human flesh. They giggled away among themselves and clearly enjoyed the distress they were causing. Being controlled by both the morbid and the malicious was more than Tedder and his men could take. The very concept made the flesh creep, never mind the actuality of it. But what were they to do? They had supported the first lieutenant in taking over the ship, and now it had been taken from them. They were sliding through deep space in a ship controlled by ghouls and maniacs. What was to become of them had not the remotest idea. In the hold, the doctor had returned to you. "I need some help," he said. "To do what, doctor?" Bergen asked. "To pursue a theory. These imps can't have jumped through space without a vessel of some sort. There has to be a craft. I'd like to find it." "And how do we do that?" "By chopping through until we find something. If all four of us go at it, we should get somewhere." Perry and you knew the doctor sufficiently well to abide by his suggestions, however whimsical they might seem. Bergen, too, saw nothing to object to in the proposal, so you all hacked your way in the direction he indicated. It was hot work, and you were all soon wiping the sweat from your foreheads. But you kept at it, even though as often as not the Leechen seemed to be getting the edge on you. The strange mewling and sigh sound it made as your blades cut into it was far from pleasant. And always and ever it was reaching out for you, seeking the sustenance it yearned for. You didn't fancy letting it find it. At last the doctor's theory was proved right. There before you was a metallically gleaming cylinder, some 2 meters in diameter. "As I thought," the doctor said. You all wanted to know. It looked like a craft of some sort, you had to admit that, but what sort precisely? And where had it come from? You were full of questions. "Those imp things," the doctor expanded, "they travel through space in this vessel, then transmute into anything they come across which takes their fancy. In this case, us." "But why?" Perry demanded. The doctor pondered a moment. "Parasites upon life itself, as far as I can gather. Pure evil is something it's impossible to explain. Disruption and misery would be the aim, I imagine, ends in themselves needing no justification, at least not for being like the imps." You had difficulty in grasping this. "You mean they have no morals whatsoever?" "Not in any sense we understand. The best way to look at it is to think of a black hole, which is negative energy. Negative, please note, not simply an absence of it. So anything we consider good, they would consider bad, and the reverse. That's the best explanation I can give. Berrigan was baffled. And they can materialize wherever they wish? Mm-hmm, the doctor nodded. First they did so in the meteorite. Then they headed for you and did the same. Berrigan stared in disbelief. You mean that thing came through the hull of my ship as though it didn't exist? Precisely. You all stared at the sphere, at the same time giving an occasional chop to keep the Leechen at bay. There was an aura about it, something totally inexplicable. It held your gaze and you felt something happening to your mind, a slipping away from reality, the beginning of a pleasant lack of focus in your sense of logic. You warmly wondered, wrapped as you were in the influence pulsating from it, whether it could take you elsewhere, as it did the imps, in time as well as space. We'll be back for another section in the next video, and we're on our way to our ending.